So we can spend a life and career doing this, pointing our fingers at others, or we can spend a life and career pointing fingers at ourselves. This is the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Sometimes, there's legitimate psychological danger. You might have to do a bit of work, which is fine.
Let's have a crack at some of these questions coming through Shed. So Tate, good to see and hear you both. To allow and empower teams and leaders to speak up and challenge the status quo, this will require huge change globally in mindsets, processes, and approaches. His question then, for those that are feeling isolated and voiceless, that are in that situation, what advice do you have?
So we can spend a life and career doing this, pointing our fingers at others, or we can spend a life and career pointing fingers at ourselves. This is the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And I think, if we are in a position where we feel voiceless, or we feel that we're not in a speak up culture, or that we can't speak up or challenge the status quo, I would focus on what is actually in our control. What are the relationships we can choose to nurture that are healthy, whether it's within the organization or outside of the organization. Sometimes, there's legitimate psychological danger. Then there's my colleague Leanne Davey writes about this. So there's legitimate psychological danger. Then there's essentially fear of aversive outcome, I believe Leanne calls it, which means if I share this idea, people will ask me to prove it. I'll have to do more work. They'll challenge me. That's not lack of psychological safety. That might be lack of confidence or lack of the willingness to put in the work. So sometimes if you don't want to speak up or feel voiceless, check it. Like it isn't binary, not psychological safety. You might have to do a bit of work, which is fine. The third is sometimes there can be baggage. There can be previous bosses, former experiences, childhood experiences, whatever it might be, that you feel there might not be psychological safety, but there may in fact be. And so what I would encourage you to do is just lean in and try a little bit with a relationship that feels safe. Check it out. In absence of that, nurture those relationships where you can do that. Again, whether it's within that culture or in a different one. Because what's fun is if you focus on what's in your control and invest in those relationships that feel safe and right, eventually you or they will get a promotion, whether it's within that company or another, and they'll say, hey Mick, we have a great relationship, come and work here. And you might be part of an amazing psychologically safe team. So yeah.
I'm hearing three things there, Shed, that are really interesting to me. The first one you said was check in with yourself. And what I'm hearing there is double check whether there's a limiting belief that is creating you to feel that you can't speak up first. And that limiting belief might come from a bad experience in the past or something like that. And then I heard you say test the waters. So work out, okay, what can I do to dip my toe in the water and see what's going to work here in a good approach. And then I heard you talk about nurturing relationships. So where it works and where it sticks, nurture that relationship, because that relationship may be something that becomes very treasured for you into the future. How does that summary for you?
Yeah, really good, Mick. Well done. And the thing that I'll point out with limiting belief is it's very hard to read the label on the jar when we're inside the jar ourselves. And so, listen, if you can journal, if you can create some objectivity, cool. But coaches, colleagues, mentors, friends, therapists, whatever it might be, can really help you work through some of those limiting beliefs as opposed to staying in here, because there's saboteurs and other fun voices that kind of get in the way with what a true narrative could be. So I love how you summarize that. I think that's great.